Welcome to Conversations from St Norbert College, a program that provides you with insight on social, political, and educational issues facing Northeast Wisconsin. Now, your host for Conversations from St Norbert College, the Dean and Academic Vice President of the college, Michael Marsden.
Good evening, my name is Michael Marsden, and I am your host for this edition of Conversations from St Norbert College. Our special guest this evening is Mr. Dave Habiger, President and CEO of Sonic Solutions, which is located in Santa Clara, California. Our focus this evening is on the challenges that today's corporate leaders face. Mr. Habiger received a Bachelor of Business Administration degree from St Norbert College in 1991, followed by a master's degree in Business Administration from the University of Chicago. Dave joined Sonic Solutions in 1993 as a regional sales manager, and then from 1993 until 2002, he served in a variety of sales and marketing management roles, which became increasingly more responsible and of more importance. From 2002 until his appointment as President and Chief Operating Officer in April of 2005, David was the Senior Vice President and General Manager as well as the General Manager of the Roxio division. In September of 2005, Dave was named the President and Chief Executive Officer of the company. Marketplace magazine featured Dave Habiger as its January 2006 issue as an up-and-coming CEO. Dave, welcome to our program. We're really pleased to have you with us.
Thank you.
Also
Thank you very much.
Very nice to have you back on the campus again after the
It's
years.
great to be back on a beautiful day.
Good. And I wanted to just ask you just a kind of a general question about your experience at St. Norbert College and some of the things that you took away from the experience here that really have helped you in your career. And maybe the flip side of that, some things that you wish had been part of your undergraduate education that weren't. That might have helped you.
I think it's fair to say that a lot of what I'm doing today started in this room, or at least in this building.
Mm-hmm. In media services.
Media services in particular. Yeah, I had worked with all the audio and video gear here and had a, maybe called a revelation. I really was excited by the tools and the technology, and certainly set me on a course after I left the school. In addition to the technology, I was fortunate enough to attend a great school. There was a collection of people here that were very still important in my life. I met.
How did you choose the institution?
I was one of those people in high school who was late to decide where to go, and I had done a lot of fair amount of research, and everyone I met who from St. Norbert, it was one of those. I don't think I really researched the academics or anything else. I met a lot of people that were. I liked all the people that went here. They all seemed to have the same characteristics. They were nice people. They were friendly. They said great things about the school, and I used that as my guide that this was probably a good place. And I'm fortunate that when I got here, I found that was true. I lifelong friendships from this university.
And you met your wife here?
I met my wife Sharon.
And her family was a number of her I guess siblings were.
Yeah.
Not sure were graduates of the institution as well. So
she was the
quite
fifth.
A legacy.
The fifth O'Hara, correct?
The fifth.
She was the youngest of five, and five of those children attended university. Some of which married other St. Norbert alums. So our family parties have a lot of stories about the university, and still feels like I'm coming home when I visit the campus.
Oh, that's good to hear. As I understand now, the essence of your company, Sonic Solutions, is that you essentially help put the DVDs into the digital media. Is that the essence of it?
It's one of the things we do. So we maybe at a more to step back a bit, a more basic level, we manage audio and video. So DVD is one of the technology. CDs, anything that ends up in a consumer format. So we prepare content for movement from your PC to your iPod, from your PC or the internet to your cell phone. So we're in the business of our mission statement, maybe to clarify, is the management, enjoyment, and creation of digital media from Hollywood to home. And so DVD is part of that, and as one of the major digital mediums in the market, DVD certainly gets a lot of our attention in one of the areas we focus on.
Now, as I understand it, there's really two major thrusts to your business. One's professional applications, and the other are more consumer applications.
Correct.
At the other end, and they're different company names. So Roxio is that the more
that's the consumer brand.
That's the consumer brand.
Correct.
But Sonic is the professional brand.
Right, and Sonic's the corporate entity and the corporate brand. So we actually started out in the professional business. We originally were developing software tools for the conversion of audio from analog to CD, and preparing that content, removing noise, clicks, pops, and moving back catalogs of content into a CD format. That led to the about mid-90s where the DVD format was just emerging. So our professional tools business is actually very much focused on DVD and CD, and that is supplying the studios and the facilities that support the studios with tools to make a DVD. In this case, take a film, encode it into a digital format, do all the menus, the interactivity that you see when you put a disc into the DVD
That's all
player.
your software.
That's our software.
And we'll see Sonic on the back of those.
On a lot of
discs.
those, yeah, you'll see us on a good chunk of those CDs. On the DVDs, you'll typically see things like Interactual. That's another business of ours, another brand name. And yeah, most of the DVDs that you rent at Blockbuster have probably been through our tools.
Now, I'm trying to understand. I believe there's an impending war between these formats, these standard formats.
Yes,
correct?
Correct.
Blu-ray and I guess HD DVD.
Correct.
Which do you think is going to win out?
Well,
or do you have a projection?
I don't. We've had a tough time predicting that one. It's difficult for us because we're agnostic. We have to support both formats, and
it's expensive.
It's expensive. So we spend twice as much time and energy building these very expensive, elaborate tools that help prepare this content for the studios, and that we sell to the post facilities. And I think the bigger concern is in the market. The consumers are waiting to see, I think rationally waiting to see which format's going to win.
For those of us who invested in Betamax,
Yeah, that's right. So it's a very similar concern. And so I think ultimately one will win and the other will lose, or the two will combine, and you'll have a single format. That I think is the thing that it's fair to say most of the industry is hoping for. Something that
is this something you think the government should interfere with, or do you think the marketplace should just determine it?
I think the marketplace should determine it. Okay. I suspect that the technology does quite well, and if you can solve a customer's problem and you can give them some technology that will make their life better, people will buy it. And at the moment, I'm not convinced that the masses have seen how Blu-ray or HD is going to make their life better. Yeah, and I think they will, though. I'm convinced that what the promise that they both bring of more interactive content, web-connected content that is updatable, better resolution, more storage, is certainly valuable. I know that if I can buy a $200 or $300 DVD player that looks better and has the entire
better resolution
series of Nova that on a single disc, 50 hours of the Nova program, I think that's fantastic. I'm sure I'll be buying that. But at the moment, there's a small amount of people who've decided that they're willing to take a risk on either one of those formats.
They're just waiting around now. Now, my understanding is your company's going to launch Qflix this summer. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure.
Because I think it's an interesting concept that maybe is the next stage in making films really accessible to people in their homes at an affordable price.
Yeah, I think at a basic level, Qflix is the ability to download a movie from the studio and burn a disc on your PC. It's a little more complicated if you think of some of the objectives the studios are trying to achieve, one of which is legal content. So they want to find a way to address the fact that people would like to buy a movie, and rather than play it back on their PC, play it in their living room where they traditionally watch content. So this helps that market. It also allows, at a manufacturing level, something that's unique and different, and that is what we call manufacture on demand. So rather than printing or producing a disc in Taiwan that has to be shipped across the ocean
in large
numbers, sent out to distribution in the States, and unfortunately on Friday when you go to Blockbuster, the movie you want isn't necessarily there. Yeah. And there's a lot of cost involved in that model, so it's not the most efficient way to distribute content. What the Qflix model at a back DVD on demand model will allow for is the creation of that disc right in the store. So Walgreens is one of the companies that's announced participation. You can have thousands of virtual aisles of content. If you want to get gardening and 79 and Green Bay, there's content there, but it doesn't make sense for anyone to put that on a DVD, given the economics in the small market for that. What I suspect is a small market. Right. On the other hand, you've got this long tail argument, more content. You've got the ability to reduce cost in shipping the content, and we think that'll be a
it makes good
successful
sense.
venture. Yeah.
So here's the next stage up. When do you expect to launch it this summer then?
We expect to launch this summer. Correct. Correct.
We'll be looking for that.
Yeah. Good.
At that point. I want to talk a little bit about the way in which you organize your company. I mean, the company itself is a huge success story, but listed as one of the 14 fastest growing companies of Fortune 500. Yeah. Have it correct?
I think roughly, yeah. Not the Fortune 500. I think
Fortune Magazine.
Fortune Magazine
is the one that was one of the top 14 companies
right.
in the country, growing by leaps and bounds. Now, although your base was California, okay, you seem to have your corporate offices in Chicago. Do I have it right?
We have our corporate entity is in California.
In California,
and
okay.
We have about 8 large offices spread around the globe. So I'd say that probably our largest teams are in California, Shanghai, Germany, Toronto. Those are probably some of the larger offices. And we certainly have a distributed global enterprise, and we don't think of the company as being necessarily California-based. We think of it as really a global business that tries to address every market in the world.
But you operate out of Chicago.
I do.
And is that because of choice, or because of are there certain logistics that make sense there?
There's a lot of logistics, yeah. Having O'Hare nearby is certainly in my business helpful. So
sure it is.
I'm 20 minutes to the airport, and on any given week have to be somewhere in the world, and being based in Chicago certainly helps that.
So is this a trend in the corporate world where a company is global that doesn't really want to talk about a particular place as its base of operation, because that de-emphasizes other places that it's operating at?
I think that it's probably fair to say most large companies now certainly want to have a global footprint. I think they all want to not necessarily downplay one office versus another, but they certainly want to have operations that touch the entire world in all markets. I can't imagine any company now that doesn't want to be doing business in Europe or in China or selling products in Japan or Australia. So
big markets.
Yeah, I think that most companies now really are doing what seems rational, and that is trying to find markets outside of the U.S. and grow and build accordingly.
Now, I'm assuming that your management philosophy has grown over the years. I mean, from the time you started with the company till now. How would you describe your management philosophy in a kind of in a simplified way?
I think in a simplified way, our company philosophy is certainly that we're always trying to find the best people. I think any good company tries to do that. And we have what we call knowledge workers, right? Software developers. The bulk of our business are people that are creating things that are intangible. And
that's a relatively new concept, the knowledge worker.
It is, and I think every business has some level of knowledge workers, and we are probably on the extreme since it's a lot of software development. But really, you want to attract the best people. I want to have the best video codec people, the best audio codec people on the planet who really want to come work at our company and find it challenging and rewarding and like any business, they need to. You want your team and your colleagues to understand why their work's important. What do they do? And I'm fortunate. I think it's a lot easier to explain to someone why software that allows me to share photos of my vacation with my grandma who lives in Kansas and my other grandma who lives in Joliet. I can clearly articulate and understand how the things we build make the world a better place. I suspect everyone in any business at some point can say that the cup they make is a better cup, and it makes the world better. But we're very lucky that when we try to hire people, I think they understand why, the value of the thing they're building. And they understand the importance of what they're building and why it's important. So, philosophically, I don't think it's unique in that regard. I think most companies try to find the best people and help them understand where.
And from your point of view, it doesn't matter where they're located, as long as they get the job done.
I don't. We don't discriminate. We're happy to locate employees all around the world, and frankly, I think we benefit from it. We certainly have benefited from having a team in Japan to help sell products and build products for Japan.
How do you communicate with that kind of a wide-ranging workforce? I mean, they're all over the globe.
Right.
Do you have regular meetings with them?
We do. There's a lot of things that, and that's probably an area where we've learned over the years. I'm not sure if we had a formula per se. You develop and you come up with ideas and you experiment. And some simple things. We had a presentation today, talked about instant message. I mean, a simple tool, technology like that allows 5 or 6 engineers in 5 or 6 countries to collectively, quickly gather the same way you decide to go walk across the hallway into someone's office. They're all online. They speak 5 or 6 different languages, most of which will speak some level of English. And typing it out and seeing it in written is a very easy way for them to communicate, to exchange an idea, help build a product, solve a problem, then separate and get back to work. A lot of little things like that. I think we like most companies, benefit from technology. Cultural shifts. It's a lot easier now, as opposed to 10 or 20 years ago, to set up businesses and hire people around the globe. Across the board, it's easier and certainly a good thing, and we benefit from it.
Interesting, yeah. Well, I want to ask you about an interview that you did with the San Francisco Business Times, if I could, for just a minute. But first, I want to remind our viewers that they're watching Conversations from St Norbert College, and our very special guest this evening is Mr. Dave Habiger, and we're very, very pleased to have him here, and we're talking about challenges facing today's corporate leaders. In this interview in the San Francisco Business Times, you talked about the biggest missed opportunities that your company has faced over the years and so on. Could you share some of those with us? And
sure.
What it is that we have to do to train ourselves not to miss those in the future? What's the lesson learned?
Well, I think that interview was they picked up. I actually made a joke, but I guess it was a true statement. That the question, what was the biggest missed opportunity? And I said, well,
in your career,
in my career, and I explained that, well, clearly. Things like the Google business didn't exist 6 years ago, and a couple people thought of an idea and they managed to build a fantastic business. I don't know, it's a missed opportunity for a lot of people, anybody in business, because it was clearly a problem to be solved and they solved it. I think in our case, missed opportunities, you look back and the ones that actually feel the most painful are the missed opportunities where you realize you actually were in that space or in a business, and it's something you should have seen, and either decided not to see it or discounted it. And usually those opportunities are things that challenge the status quo, that aren't that maybe take some risk. And I suspect that, like all companies, as you get larger, you're more inclined to be risk averse, and you don't.
How do you protect against that, though? I mean, your company would have to always be on the edge to be successful.
I guess you protect against it by trying to reduce or mitigate that behavior. I don't think you ever get rid of it. I think it's implicit in growth, and what we do, and our challenge and our solution to that problem would be to just reinforce, not punish people for failure, give them the freedom to experiment, and especially in my business where it's a lot of creative people that are building creative products. So
they can make a mistake, but it's not the end
yeah,
of the world.
I think you have to. I think there's probably a reason why companies like, well, I won't point to any examples, but very, very large companies that are older and been around a longer time tend to be less innovative. And I think it's part of the size. And I think it's probably management's job to constantly push down on the organization to build something that allows creativity to bubble and assumptions to be challenged, and managers and people in the organization to be challenged.
Sure.
And I think that mitigates it. I suspect it never solves the problem altogether. And there will be some great product that 3 guys in a dorm, maybe at St. Norbert's, think of that will have me and others scratching our head why we didn't
think of that one.
Why we didn't think of that one.
Right. Yeah, those are interesting stories. Now, one of the questions I have, though, is that in this world of taking some risk, at the same time trying to protect what the interests that you have, how did you survive the internet bust of the late 90s and so on? I mean, it must have affected your company in some ways, because your base was in the industry of the film industry initially,
right.
So that was a buffer, I suspect. But still, you were competing for some of the same workers. You were, how did you work that all out?
Well, we saw a lot of companies come and go during that time. Businesses that started and rose very quickly. Some that had been around who made some mistakes and failed quickly. And I suspect the common thread in hindsight was that most of them started to believe there was some new business, that products and technology and customers were won very quickly, and didn't have to make money necessarily, didn't have to be profitable. Basic core principles in business tend to hold true. I mean, at some point you do have to...
They ignored those. Or
they ignored them, or they believed that they weren't as important. And at the end of the day, your customers matter and your employees matter. During the internet, bubble, there was a less emphasis, I think, on employees, on the, I wouldn't say the product, but people were just part of the process, and sometimes they were there for a year or two, and then they were gone.
Moved on to someplace
moved on.
else.
And so, we were fortunate that we kind of stayed true to worrying about the customers, worrying about our business, focusing on building and running a profitable operation. Mm-hmm. And we didn't grow a whole lot during that period. I mean, we've kind of had to keep our heads low, and we chugged along and saw a lot of people for several years.
So you began to build from '93 to about 2000?
Yeah, I mean, there's from the 90s through now, I mean, there's years of rapid growth, and then there's years of flatness. I don't think we've ever really declined, but we certainly had good years and bad years, like all businesses, and some are better than others. And I guess the when you take the trend line, it looks good, right? I mean, we've been a very successful company. We've grown a lot, and if you measure months and weeks and years, sometimes you can find areas that don't have so much growth. I suspect that has a lot to do with our business. We're in constantly in technology, where things are produced, ideas are created, products are brought to market, and then there is, new products, and you suddenly have a great product and it slowly fades, or competitors come in. If we were building cups or chairs, I suspect we wouldn't see that same rapid growth followed by
more steady state.
Yeah,
that particular. One of the questions in my own mind, at least, is in the life that you lead, and it's I'm sure an extremely complex life, a lot of activity, a lot of energy, a lot of pressure. Is there life during the CEO's life, and then is there life after the CEO's life? In other words, do you have a private life that you're able to protect, and do you see yourself serving as a CEO forever, or do you have other plans beyond that?
Boy, good question. Well, there's certainly a life. I don't identify. I don't think of myself as a CEO.
So you don't identify with it?
I do. I mean, I have a job, and it's a job I like. It's a job that I like building things, like building companies and products, and working with people that like to create stuff. So that's a fantastic. I'm very lucky to be able to do that. My wife and kids don't think of me as a CEO. They just think of me as dad and their husband. So I have a pretty easy I have a good work-life balance that I like to keep my my life private. I don't do a lot of these interviews. St. Norbert is an important place and played an important role in my life. So
I'm glad to hear that, of course.
I'm happy to do them. But it really isn't. It's like most things. It's not probably not as much of a daunting task as it may sound, and it's hard work. But it's like all jobs. Everyone's got a lot of work to do, and I'm lucky enough that I really like it. And so, I think whether I'd be a CEO for the rest of my life, I don't know. I think I know I'll do what I like for the rest of my life, and if I like running a company, I suspect in some cases the CEO title goes along with it, but I don't know. I think to be very frank, it's more exciting to do all the fun things in running a company and working with people and building things and solving problems. Mm-hmm. That's certainly a more rewarding thing than carrying the flag for the company, right? And I think that's part of a CEO's job, and in a publicly traded market. There's a lot of baggage that comes along with that too. So I'm not sure that that certainly wouldn't be the goal. It may come along with the job.
Well, this may lead to a related question, which is at St. Norbert College we have a tradition here of really talking about vocation, and not in the strict religious sense of the term. And this isn't just the religious life, but in the sense of everybody has a vocation in life. Whether it's a parent, whether it's a grandparent, whether it's a teacher, etc. Do you see yourself as having a vocation in the work that you do?
Yeah.
A calling?
I do. I maybe a calling is too strong of a word for it, but I certainly think that I have a vocation. I don't think that my vocation is to be a CEO. I think my vocation is I have certain set skills. Turns out those skills match up well with someone who heads up a company, and I have skills that don't match up well with someone who heads up a company. So then I have to work on those. But my vocation is, look, I like people. I like to meet people. I like to work with people. I get excited by solving problems. I like to build things, grow things. Those are, that's vocational. I don't think at any point I had a specific calling where it was absolutely clear that when I went to college, because I thought, well, that's what you do when you get out of high school. And when I was in college, and I look back, I recognize that in hindsight, there were certain things I liked and was attracted to. I took some chances. I did those things, and I've always been fortunate that as I really did what I loved, I did well at it, and it didn't seem like work. If with the time and energy I put into my job and my company, if it was really work, I'd have a lot more gray hair and stress marks and scowls in my head. It really is 90% of the time quite enjoyable and something that if I wasn't getting paid, I'd be doing something very close to what I do now.
Interesting, interesting indeed. Well, I was just wondering if you saw it that way, and I'm glad you do, because I think you earlier talked about making the world a better place. So I assume you feel your company is making the world a better place,
I think it is.
Giving people products that really do enhance their lives.
Yeah, I'm happy to report that at the moment we are.
You have over...
Unless someone's PC crashed.
We hope not.
Okay.
Right. Wait, now, with a company with over 640 employees, at least that's the last count, maybe there's more than that now.
There's a little more than that. Yeah.
What keeps you awake at night with all those people you're responsible for?
Oh, boy. You didn't tell me that question was on there.
I mean, certain things must bother you.
Yeah, sure. You always... I think that... as we've gotten larger, I certainly feel more of an obligation, and again, like anyone who's leading a team or managing people, has feels obligated to make sure that they're making the right decisions for the company and the entity. And there's 5-6 decisions a day where hopefully you're making more good ones than bad ones. So now that being said, not a lot keeps me up at night. I know what I'm doing. I know that I'm working hard. I know I'm the right guy to do what I'm doing. I feel good about the products I build, and I put my head on the pillow at night and I sleep quite well. Now, metaphorically speaking, I do. Usually when I'm on my morning run is when the wheels are spinning on. Okay, was that the right decision? Should we have done this somehow differently? And those are day-to-day decisions.
But you have no problem going back and correcting something where you made a mistake.
No, I make a lot of them. Yeah,
we correct it, get on with it.
Yeah, and look, in my experience is that you recognize where you've got your weaknesses and where it's not your skill set, and you surround yourself with people that are good at things you're not good at, and put other way, I think I've said in my presentation, people that are smarter than you. I mean, I've been fortunate to have people that are extremely brilliant, sharp people around me, guiding me and helping me as I've
and not be afraid
grown.
of that, but rather be challenged by that.
Yeah, and learn from. I think that's what most people do who are doing well with their life, with their life and their business.
To have people who will challenge you and push you further and push the company further.
Yeah,
better products. Well, I certainly want to thank our special guest, Mr. Dave Habiger, for sharing his expertise and insights with us this evening. So please join us for future programs as we continue our exploration of the world of ideas. Until then, I'm Michael Marsden for Conversations from St. Norbert College.